Hello YouTube, this is BUB'S Comics coming at you. I have a support video for Metarog's happy birthday contest for being a year on YouTube. So here we go. What he's wanting is he's wanting us to basically create our dream team of comic creators and give a little bit of a story, plot. He's got some extra points here and there for a bunch of different stuff, but honestly, some of it I don't really care about. But other of it I really did, so I just figured I'd pick and choose. So basically, let's start with the basics, and that's characters. So the characters will be the ones that you see here, and that's going to be Wolverine and Cave Woman will be the two main characters, and then the villain, if you will be Man-Bat. So I've always liked Man-Bat as a villain, and I like the idea of having 3 different publishers involved. So you got Marvel, you got Independent, or in this case, Basement, Emerald Comics, whatever you want to call them, and then you've got DC, all kind of coming together to make this dream book. So I thought that was great. My cover artist is going to be John Cassaday. I just absolutely love his take on Wolverine. I think that the way that he draws Wolverine with the tapered ear wings, or whatever you want to call them, cowl wings or flaps or whatever the hell they are, I just think that is perfect, and it's pretty much my favorite of the blue and gold costumes, especially my favorite version of Wolverine. I toyed with having him in brown and gold because that's ultimately my favorite costume version. But I think that because the setting, I'd like it to be in the Savage Land. So because the setting of the book is going to be so green and dark and jungly, I thought it would be cool to have him in the bright blue and gold. Next we'll have the other co-star of the book, which is going to be, get out of the way, Man-Bat. It's going to be Cave Woman. Had to censor this one because this is, didn't want to have to put an 18 and over tag on it. So I picked this cover for Cave Woman because it's one of my favorite drawings of her. And also Andrew Mangum, the guy that drew this, also did all the interior art for this book. So I'll show that off in a minute because I want him to be the interior artist. So you may not have heard of Andrew Mangum. He's not done too much that you would know him for. But he has done a few covers here and there. It's funny because he only draws like this one woman. But like every time someone asks him to draw a woman, like it's this woman. So... But in any case, I really love the way her hair looks there and her everything looks. And it's clear he can draw beasts pretty well. He does that pretty good. That's a werewolf there. This is one of my favorite Cave Woman comics. I'll show you a little bit of the interior art real quick. And the reason that... Whoa! Sorry. So I don't know if you saw that. So the reason that I show that is because he does kind of a wide... he does a lot of wide angles. I really like it. It's good for getting scope. And also I like the way that he draws these close-ups. So he goes from a big wide angle to a close-up. And I just really think that would work well for Wolverine and the way that he acts and interacts with his eyes and his mouth in comics. I think that would look really cool. So also, again, some more giant scenes that he does. I really like those. So he's going to do my interior art. And one of the main reasons for that is because I also want it to be black and white. So my wife and I, we like the ink. We like color too, but we like the black and white on the interiors. We think it leaves a little bit more of the detail behind the book. So in any case, we like that. So we'd like to have the black and white interior, have Andrew Mangum do that. And then also, Man-Bat never likes to stand. He is always, as long as I've had him, he's always been a bugger to get to stand. So, and then of course, here's a great Man-Bat as the villain. So the story I want written, I want the cover artist to be John Cassaday. I want the interior artist to be Andrew Mangum. And then I want the story to be written by Joss Whedon. So he wrote one of my favorite storylines in comics, and that's the first 24 issues of Astonishing X-Men. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. Great Wolverine story, great heart in it, great humor. Just everything about it was pretty much perfect. I had such a hard time making this video because I didn't know how much of it I wanted. I wanted it to kind of be a team that had never worked together before, and Cassaday and Whedon have worked together before on that X-Men run. So, but I went with them again because they were just so good together, and plus Cassaday's only doing the cover anyway, so shouldn't be that big a deal. They'll probably never be in the same room at the same time. So, I just thought it'd be really good. Who else? Of course, it needs to be a Stan Lee Presents book. It's going to be a Marvel DC / Basement Comics, so I want Marvel as the top heading, and then DC, and then Basement Comics all together. What else? That's pretty much it. So the plot is that Wolverine, kind of wakes up, if you will, in the Savage Land, as tends to happen. So Wolverine just kind of wakes up in the Savage Land. He's pretty sure he knows where he is. He's pretty sure he knows he's in the Savage Land. He's been here before. But of course, it's always, how did I get here and why am I here? So he's going through and he knows he's being followed, but he doesn't know by who or by what. And it's Man-Bat. He sees the shadows, he keeps coming overhead and he can tell that he's being followed. But the problem with Wolverine has an issue usually with flying characters because he can't reach them even with his claws. He always has to devise some way to get them down or to get up to them. So he has an issue with that. He encounters raptors in the woods. So these little guys, stand up, Man-Bat. He encounters raptors in the woods. So you see the raptors there. And they're going to town on him, and he's really having a hard time battling because there's like 20 of them. So Cave Woman shows up, and she more or less helps him or saves him from the raptors because she deals with them all the time. She knows their weaknesses and she knows how they work. And she's got super strength, if you didn't know that already. So she can hold her own. She's kind of like a Rogue-esque character as far as her strength ability. It's about as strong as Rogue would be. So obviously pretty strong. So, and she heals quickly, and she's typical grab bag of powers, and of course high agility and a penchant for losing her bikini top. So, and sometimes bottom. So in any case, so they're out in the Savage Land, and then she saves him from the raptors. So they get together and continue on the quest to find out why they're there. And they're moving on, and then they encounter some bigger dinosaurs, some T-Rexes, as there generally are in the Cave Woman comics. They kind of pop up out of nowhere. So it'll be a T-Rex they come across, and Wolverine, does his work on the T-Rex, and they find out that it's actually a mechanical T-Rex, so it's like a Sentinel T-Rex. So anyway, that includes into the mystery, and they keep going through, and turns out that Man-Bat, as you know, is a scientist. He has been devising ways to get the DNA from animals, and he has captured other scientists to get them to create these robot-based animals. So anyway, he's following along, and his mission is to try and get Wolverine and Cave Woman's DNA because he wants to mix them in with an animal to create a big, giant cyborg type dinosaur or whatever. So that's what he's doing. Kind of a half-baked idea, but it's a comic, so you don't have to get real technical. So he's following around, and during their they have a couple of smaller battles with Man-Bat as he comes upon them, and they get away. They're never really able to get to him. He has a lot of animals at his disposal that are constantly attacking and trying to bring them down. And then, of course, just the jungle itself is hard on them. And then finally, they encounter Clyde, who, if you don't know Clyde, he's a giant gorilla that comes in the Cave Woman comics. He's kind of like her sidekick. So he's a giant gorilla. They encounter Clyde, who had also been brought to the Savage Lands in order to get his DNA. And which, of course, is where Man-Bat makes his mistake because Clyde is too big of a foe. He should not have brought him. So he brings him anyway, and Clyde, of course, who's already good friends with Miriam, and after Wolverine encounters him and they have a little bit of a battle, and then they realize, oh, we're all friends here, as typically happen. Then Clyde throws Wolverine for a fastball special at Man-Bat and takes him out of the sky. And that's how Man-Bat gets brought down. So there you go. That's my little story. I don't have any colorist because it's going to be black and white on the interior. And I like it to say Stan Lee Presents on the inside. But other than that, I don't care who the editors are and all that other kind of stuff. And as far as the writing, as far as the letterer, so he had asked, Roger had asked for a letterer. I'll say this. I don't care who the letterer is, as long as it's an actual letterer. That's my main thing. I can't stand the modern comics where they have like a speech bubble that's pre-done by the artist because it's all digital, and then they just add the text and they shrink the text until it fits into the speech bubble, and you can't even read it. I can't tell you how many comics I've opened where you can't even read the text. It's so tiny. I mean, my eyesight probably isn't perfect, but it's good enough to read a comic book, or at least it used to be. You open up these comics, you can't see anything. They're so tiny. You can't read them at all. And they vary widely, and there's no style to them. They just look like text, like you're reading it out of a book. It's really not, it's not pretty. It's not artistic. And it's hard to read, so it's not even functional. So I absolutely hate that. I wish they would go back to regular lettering for the more mainstream comics. Of course, the smaller comic companies, some of them still do their own artistic lettering. So that's all I'm asking. I don't care who the letterer is. I've never had a style that I thought was amazing or anything, but just have an actual letterer and not a computer typed text. That's all I'm asking. Other than that, I think that's pretty much got it. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Sorry for the slight uncensored censoring or whatever that was. And then when you get done with this, maybe someday somebody will see this video and give me a call, and we'll be in the comic making business, and we'll get all these people to play nice together for at least one comic book, and we'll get it done. So maybe when that comes out, you can sit down and read it. But until then, read one of the other ones you've already bought. Bye.